Hey folks, it's me, Tiff at the Knifewear Warehouse, and today I want to talk to you about handle maintenance. You've just bought yourself a Japanese kitchen knife. You love it, it's perfect, it's beautiful. Your handle is going to need a little bit of care and attention. Not as much as the blade, but a little bit. As you use your knife, you're going to find that sometimes the handle gets stained or needs a little wash. If you're completely unhinged like I am, you will use the butt end of your handle to smash garlic or whatever you want. This is all fine, but it's gonna make your handle, need some TLC. This is Clapham's beeswax, and it's a product that we carry here for the care and maintenance of cutting boards mainly, but it works great for doing this job as well. So this Koishi is kind of great feeling. There are some dry spots on there and it is in need of a little bit of care. It's been lightly used and you're gonna find that you don't need a lot. So I'm just gonna use a very tiny amount of Clapham's on this handle. If you've just done your cutting board, this can be the residual wax from doing your cutting board that's just left over on your hand. And I'm just gonna cover the handle in wax. If it's really dry, maybe consider leaving it there overnight. But for this one, it's not so bad. I don't think we're gonna need to leave it there for very long. I do have some wax on my hands, and so I'm just gonna move on and we'll come back to it in a minute or two. Another thing that I wanna talk about is if you've soaked your handle by accident or there's just a little bit too much water that has rested on there for too long, it can raise the fibers of the wood and leave you with a really kind of scritchy, picky, Velcro-y texture, and that is not what you're after. The beechwood handle on the Hazaki Classic tends to be a little rougher than some of our other handles, and this one needs a little bit of sanding. And if you find that happens, it's no big deal at all. What you are gonna do is you're just gonna grab, pretty rough sandpaper. This is 600 grit, and all I'm gonna do is take a little section of it and just lightly sand out the handle. So once you're done sanding it and it feels pretty good to your hand, you're just gonna spend a little bit of time. You're just gonna put a little bit of wax on it. You've sanded down the fibers, it's feeling good again. It's really not a very big deal. You could do this with any wooden handle knife that you've got. You just wanna wax it afterwards and let it sit overnight. Now the last knife that I wanna talk about is this Munetoshi. Your handles need care. This one definitely needs a little bit of care. But if you have a knife that happens to have a horn collar, that's gonna need some care too. And you're probably gonna wanna look at it more often than some of your other collars. Like wood, it's got a natural grain, and it requires a lot of moisture in order to not shrink and not crack and to stay kind of lustrous, I guess. So this handle, I'm also gonna let soak overnight. I'm really just spending some time rubbing the wax into the top of the collar here, the heel of the handle, and just all throughout. This poor unfortunate soul has experienced a crack in its past, and so what I'm gonna do is just sort of pack that crack with a little bit of wax. This is not a larchwood cutting board, and so unfortunately that crack is never gonna close, but what we can do is prevent it from widening. With your knife handles, you're probably looking at, doing a full waxing like every 4 to 6 months, maybe, 3-4 times a year. If you live in a super dry place like I do, you probably want to look at them every 2 to 3 months. But if you live on the coast, you're probably looking at this maybe twice a year. Humid regions, I would say, once or twice a year, but for sure, if you live in a dry place like Calgary, make sure you're looking at it at least 4 times a year. So this video was requested by some of our regular viewers, and I'd like to say a warm thank you so much for asking the question. We're always super happy to answer any questions that you might have that will make owning a Japanese knife a more pleasant experience. If you have further questions, please just drop it in the comments. Otherwise, check out the rest of our YouTube channel for stuff we've already covered. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna rub some wax into that crack. Crack is whack.